Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Josh,
And I'm Jordi.
and you're listening to Punt Win Repeat. Today, we're here to talk about the CCS 20K CDH Invitational with Jordi, who sucked and only got second, and the true GOAT himself, Blake. Blake, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Blake. I pretty much exclusively play RAL at this point. RAL Monsoon Mage. The deck is really good, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So, had a lot of success this past weekend, and it was nice to bring home a win for the deck.
Hell yeah. So we're going to be doing a couple of things here. We're going to go over a couple of new cards. We're kind of packaging a bunch of topics into one. We're going to start off by talking about a couple of the new cards that just came out in recent sets in Avatar and Lorwyn. I don't know why that escaped me. Just get a couple brief impressions. So let's start with Formidable Speaker. Did you guys see that at all over the weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a bit of it, both this weekend and the previous weekend at Rumble. It looked pretty good every time, even if it was just the creature tutor part. It looks good. It was insane when I saw people untap with it and get to actually use the untap aspect. So I think we'll be seeing it for quite a lot of it for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to it in my tournament overview, but in my top 16 match, Jordan Drake did some disgusting things with it.
Yeah. So I guess thumbs up for this card.
Yeah.
I think that's a good
I think this is an obvious one.
Yeah, like thumbs up, thumbs down for like if you think it's good and gonna continue to see play, or if you think it's bad.
Yeah.
So thumbs up here, good card. Hexing Squelcher.
I think we're gonna disagree on this one. Yeah. I don't know. I think overall this card is not close to as good as like some people were saying, but I think in specific decks it's really quite good. We'll talk about this later, but it single-handedly won me the finals game. I've seen it. I've literally only played 12 or 13 games with it these past two tournaments, and I've seen it maybe 3 times, and it was impactful in all those games that I saw it. So for me, that's a pretty good sign. But I know Jordi.
Like for me, I think that this shows or showcases the difference in the opinions on Squelcher that we're going to see. Because I play more of like a mid-range build of a deck, and for me, that deck is like the card's terrible. Because people have time to look at it, set it up, kill it, whatever they need to do. Whereas more like the turbo decks, I think they're going to be able to capitalize on it more. So I think that's why you're going to see like yeses and nos on it.
Yeah. Actually, I get to give my opinion too. I forget, I'm not just interviewing the people at the tournament. I get an opinion too. I think it's bad. I think the card is super overrated, and the only time you're going to see it is in low color, like 2-color decks. Ral kind of appreciates it more than other decks. Atali appreciates it a little bit. But once you get into 3-color plus, or especially anything that has white, I think it's a no-go. Cabbage Merchant. Blake, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think this card is, when it starts doing its thing, it's super busted. If it doesn't get to do its thing, then like I'm not sure it's any worse than any other creature, right? Because when it doesn't get to do its thing, you're losing that turn. And when that's happening, like very few creatures matter. So the times I've seen it, out of the decks I've seen it, it's impressed me quite a bit. But it's also, I think, like pretty deck specific. You can't just throw it into anything green like you maybe could with Formidable Speaker.
Jordi?
I'm very low on it. I think there's going to be like end up being just a CCS card and a TNT card, because I think that it just making food, like if you kill the creature, you're left behind with like a crap load of food they're never going to see any play or use. I think that like TNT can make good use of the food just because of Brewmaster, and then CCS because it's a legendary, and like even though the foods aren't important, the mana is important enough in that deck that it's just going to be good.
Yeah. My opinion is here, and for Sisse, it's like here. It does make a bunch of mana. The problem is like, imagine if you're Smothering Tithe like when it got destroyed, removed all of your treasures, and that's basically what Cabbage Merchant is. You kill the 2/2, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of useless stuff. I don't think it's very good. I think we'll continue to see it in Sisei though, because they just want more mana. So, Wan Shi Tong, Blake.
I don't know, dude. I thought this card was gonna suck. Sometimes I see it and it's drawn 8 cards, and sometimes I see it and it again, it's a creature that comes down and then you lose that turn and it doesn't matter. So I'm still completely unsure. I think there are some decks that will play it just because they have the ability to make a lot of mana and hold up that mana. But I don't think it's at all like a long-term have-to-play card.
Yeah. Jordi?
Yeah. I have it as like in the middle. I think that I tried it in TNK, and the games I saw it, it either like won the game because it was a super late game top deck, or it just was a pitch to Chrome Mox or Gemstones or whatever, because double blue is just so hard to hit consistently in a 4-color deck.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you guys. I'm like in the middle on it. I can definitely see some games where it pops off and like draws a ton of cards, and even being a Tymna attacker is like pretty relevant. But getting that double blue early to the point where it can scale up and be like an actual threat is kind of tough. So it's an okay card. Now we get into the stuff that we actually care about, which is the 20k Invitational Qualifier. So what we're going to do here is we're going to very briefly go over both of the decks for a couple of minutes, talk about some things that you liked about your deck, things that you didn't like about the deck, and then we're going to go into the rounds. So Blake, I have your list pulled up here. You want to talk about some of your choices?
Yeah. I think that my deck is... I think Ral's very good, and I think this is obviously the best version of it, or I wouldn't play it. Sorry, can we pause a second? My contact fell out.
Yeah, take a second. Go.
Nothing happened. So yeah, I think this is the best version of Ral. Not that there's really that many versions. I think like the biggest decision is amount of lands that you're playing, and I think that 22 to 23 is like the right amount. As far as cards that overperformed, every time I play in an event, I win a game specifically off of the back of Vexing Bauble, and I think the card's busted in a lot of decks, but specifically Ral. It's very strong. Echo of Eons is like quietly probably the best card in the deck for a lot of reasons, and I'll talk about one very specific reason during my round 4 when we talk about that. And then something that I did differently for this tournament, I played 3 redirects. I played Deflecting Swat, obviously. I played Redirect Lightning, and I played Untimely Malfunctions. And they were all good this entire tournament. To be honest, I kind of want to add a 4th one, but the one I would have to add is the Trap. And I don't know that that's good. So that will require some pretty extensive testing. Cards that didn't perform so much, Mox Opal is a really polarizing card because there's not a whole lot of artifacts in the deck. There are a lot of things that make treasures, so you can get there, but it does look quite bad in mulligans. Luckily, you mulligan pretty heavily in this deck. You're almost always going to be putting at least 1 card back, oftentimes 2 or 3, so it's okay to, if you put back a Mox Opal, because it's not turned on, like, it's the same as putting back any other card. And I think Valakut Awakening is another card where I'm not super high on anymore. I used to be much higher on it, but it's a situation where, like, if you're mulliganing pretty heavily, the tap land doesn't really matter so much, but the putting cards back into your deck does. If you can only put 2 cards back into your deck, it's a lot weaker than if you can put 5 or 6. So I think I'll be testing something else in that slot. I'm not entirely sure what. 1 or 2 important cards I want to talk about that I'm not playing: Ristic and Bonus Round. I think that most Ral players should be playing those cards. But to be honest, I just think I'm good enough at the deck that I don't need them. So I didn't play them, and it was fine for me. Ristic is like obviously one of the most busted cards in our format. You should play it in blue decks. And then Bonus Round is just like kind of training wheels. So I don't feel like I need them, but it does make winning a lot easier, and it saves mental for a lot of people, so that's totally fine, especially in longer tournaments.
Yeah. We've talked about it before. Bonus round is like a win more card. If you play it, you're probably like definitely going to win.
Yeah.
And Ristic Study is a broken card, but a lot of times your curve for Ristic doesn't really pan out well. Like if you're winning the game anyways on turn 2, you don't have to play the Ristic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, that was quick. Jordi, let's talk about yours.
I mean, my list has been the same for a while now. I mean, it's just classic TNK. I think that my list probably differs from like the next couple lists, like the next couple of TNK lists people will probably look on online by like roughly 15 to 20 cards, because I think that people have been experimenting with some really weird stuff lately, specifically like Jessica's Will and Flare in a deck where your main red creature is like 5 mana. I think those cards are broken, just don't work well for me. I think they just cost a lot, but for me, I mean, if you look at our old video, it's basically going to be the same list, minus like maybe 6 cards. And for me, my overperformers were Polywog. Polywog won me my top 16 game, just like probably a crap load card. Surveillance, fantastic. Also just contributed to me winning a bunch of games. I think that Surveillance are broken. And then Orcish Bowmasters. I was looking through the lists from the 20K, and a couple of the TNK lists weren't playing Bowmasters. I don't really understand that. I can see like if people are cutting Bowmasters, why the Thrasios decks might be on the uptick. But I think that card is just like really broken, really great for just like controlling board states. I just think it does a lot. So those three are probably my overperformers. Underperformers, as we went over before, Hexing Squelcher. I'd rather just turn off my opponents if I can. So something like Brand Abolisher, Voice of Victory, Silence, Ranger Captain. They work really well. Other than that, like I was really scratching my brain to see if there's any other underperformers I can think of. It's basically just PFB. I didn't really find a really good spot to deploy PFB and like have it be free or at least give me back 2 mana. But it's still just a good card. We'll see how it goes for the bans and unbans. If Dashside comes back, cards.
It super won't.
Yeah.
I actually kind of wanted to give the opportunity here too, Jordi, to talk about something that just came up in a different video. When you're trying to describe like your version of TNK and like what it's trying to do, because Lamora put out a video where he went over your list a little bit, and I'm not throwing shade or anything. I'm just trying to help people understand. When they see things like you're playing the Surveil lands and then you're also playing something like Grinding Station, it kind of seems counterintuitive where you're playing like these more control-y cards or Bolt or whatever. You're playing a couple cards that make it seem like you're a little bit slower, and then a couple cards that make it seem like you're trying to go a little faster and more all-in. How would you describe your approach to putting things together?
So, yeah, my approach is I just want to be playing the best cards in every slot, and I'm really skirting the line right in between of like a more mid-range version and a more turbo version. So I know a lot of people are going to look at my list and they're going to see there's no J-Will, there's no Diabolic Intent, there's no Culling the Weak. And I think that in Rogsai, those are definitely turbo cards, because you have this really powerful, cheap enabler in Rog that you get to turn those cards into 1 mana, make 4 mana, or 3 mana, make 5, 6 mana, and draw 3 cards. But in TNK specifically, I don't think that those cards work as well as people have it in their heads that they do. I think that when I look at Diabolic Intent, I see a 5 mana tutor that sacrifices your commander so you turn off your own interaction. Not something that I want to be playing. I think I look at Jessica's Will and I see 6 mana, make 5 mana, draw 3, which I'm not a big fan of either. I'm not really like a red intensive deck, so the red pips don't really matter to me. And then what else did I mention? And then Culling the Weak is like the same kind of principle as Diabolic Intent, where it's actually 4 mana for 4 mana.
Right.
So I don't see those as real turbo options for TNK, and so I've put those cards into just like higher quality cards. Lightning Bolt is I think one of the few cards that people aren't playing. That has been an overperformer for me, not in this tournament because I think I saw it once, but in my previous games, every time I see a bolt, I'm like, oh, thank God, this is like great, because someone goes too low on their necro, and I'm just going to kill them with the triggers on the stack. If there's a Thrasios deck and they play a Seedborn Muse, I'm like, all right, kill your Thrasios, and you get to untap, but you don't really have cards in your hand, so I don't really care about you anymore.
Right.
So I think that they're just like very cheap, powerful effects that people are not playing. Polywalk, for instance, people kept asking me about Polywalk during the weekend, and I was like, yeah, this card's just good. At 1, I would play this card when it gets 1 trigger every day of the week. And if it gets 2 triggers, it's literally just Ristic Study.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go, haters. Now you know.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, you brought up the Lomar video, and that made me want to talk about something. Not so much about the video itself, but I saw some comments on the video. And a lot of it was about interaction, specifically in RAL, where basically a lot of it was saying like either RAL doesn't play a lot of interaction or that the interaction it plays is only for itself, which I guess like kind of makes sense because you're looking at a turbo deck. But I actually wanted to go through some numbers. This is my list, right? Different RAL lists could vary slightly, but I'm playing 13 pieces of stack interaction. I'd say that's about average to like most blue farms, right?
It's pretty close.
About there. And I'm playing 10 pieces of board interaction, which might be more than like any other deck in the format. So I think that's a bit of a misnomer. Obviously, like I'm not maybe helping. I'm not like holding up mana to help as much as another deck. But I think it is also like, and this is a way that I've started to try to lean the deck towards, but when I'm going off, I want to have interaction to protect myself because, you know, it's not what it was, 6 months ago or even a year ago where like people don't know what the deck does as much anymore. Everybody knows what RAL does now, right? Everybody's scared of it. You're most of the time going to need to interact at some point. And that's not even counting Hexing Squelcher or, Bobble, I guess, which maybe kind of count as some stack interaction. But
Yep.
So, just something that's interesting.
Just off the numbers you gave there, like I did a quick count on Jordi's list, and he's on like 14 pieces of stack interaction if you count silence.
Yeah.
Now he has more like board interaction, but you have like bolts and stuff in RAL too that do stuff there. So, yeah. Anyways, moving forward. These are the results from the tournament. First place, Blake Geary. Second place, Jordi. I believe you guys going into Top Cut were closer towards the bottom of the top 16, right?
No,
We're 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Or 6 and 7, maybe. Yeah.
Something like that.
So middle of the pack. Middle towards the top.
Yeah. We were both C2 in top 16. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Works out perfect because then you both get to make it in the finals, am I right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, okay, let's go into the rounds. We're going to breeze through the regular Swiss rounds and get a little bit more crunchy, detail, intense towards the Top Cut stuff. But I guess we'll start with Blake in round 1.
Yeah. Something that I personally know about myself, not just this tournament, but tournaments in general, is that I am generally a weak start and I ramp up, whereas I think most other players are the opposite, where they are the most on top of their game at the beginning, especially with what I would consider to be a pretty like brain-intensive deck with RAL. It can get very tiring if you've got to go through the win line a lot of times. This definitely showed in my game 1. I should have won this game 3 different turns. I like fizzled in spots that I would not fizzle in 99% of the time. I almost punted by forgetting that I was holding interaction in my hand and not telling an opponent to untap my lands with snap. Unfortunately, another opponent also punted. And then in the last turn, I just couldn't get there in time because there's, that rule, the extra 20 minutes, or at least in this tournament, in those extra 20 minutes, they don't tell you how much time you actually have there. So I didn't know how much time there was, and I wasn't able to actually kill them in the amount of time that I had, which is my fault, 100%. But so yeah, this was a draw going to time. I think that I win from those exact spots. I win this game like 90+% of the time if I'm playing at my best, but I wasn't. So And that happens. Like, that's the structure of tournaments, is that you need to be on your best. And luckily, like, starting my second round was, I think. But this tournament could have probably been a whole lot easier for me if I just won round one.
All right. Jordi, looks like you had a pretty similar round one.
I mean, yeah, my round one, I was going third against Dogdress, Kefka. It was me and then Sisse. It was a really quick game. This is another, like, I put a Hexing's Culture out. I pushed for a win, and they have everything that's not a counterspell to stop me. I mean, I think this guy showed me a Mind Break trap to not counter my spell. He showed me a Emerald Charm to kill my Breach. He showed me a Besage to kill my Breach. And he also showed me a Silence. And I was like, yeah, this is a draw. Because if it gets past my turn, I push it on one turn. Final Fortune to go to my next turn to push again. He still shows me all this interaction. And I look at the Sisse player to my left, and I know that he can win the game if he untaps. And the interaction is not good enough for him. So I just say, like, this is a draw here, because it's never going to make it to your turn. And that's what happened. It just felt really bad. Like, Hexing's Culture just did nothing to me.
It's one of the things that I think we brought up when talking. We didn't bring it up in this particular instance, but when we've talked about it before, it's like counterspells are not the only interaction in CEDH, and like exactly like that, how you described it. Sometimes people just have all the things that don't counter spells, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
Round two. I'm already on Jordi, so Jordi, you want to talk about your round two? We'll just kind of pepper back and forth.
Let me see. I'm going third in this pod against TNK, Sisse, and a Rockside going last. And the hand that I kept was a turn 1 Ristic Study, so that's pretty good. Slammed the Ristic Study. I just proceeded to just draw all the cards in my deck, and was able to push for a win through multiple pieces of interaction.
Yep. There's a note here that says TNK got greedy on a Vamp Tutor.
Yeah, so TNK, they got greedy. They Vamp Tutored for their win condition instead of getting more interaction. The thing is that the Rockside player after me had deployed, I think it was a Mystic Remora, so they had like 40 cards in their hand, so it wasn't going to get to the TNK player's turn anyway. If I remember correctly, so they got greedy. They probably could have gotten an extra draw for the Rockside player. And then the other thing that they messed up was Gus should have offered one of the Sisse players' interaction pieces to give them an activation on Sisse. If they played that game perfectly, I think it's a draw.
Right.
But it didn't, so.
Free wins for Jordi.
Yeah.
All right, Blake.
My round two was a draw. I was fourth seat. I mulled to 3. Somebody else forced a draw. That's like a win, man. I don't know. Cash money.
We talked about
I'll take that. I literally did nothing the entire game. I just sat there, and then somebody else was like, "I got a pact," and I was like, "Yay!"
I remember this because when you walked up to me to tell me like, "Oh, it was a draw," and you told me it was a Malta 3 going last, I was like, "Dude, that's a win."
Yeah.
That's a win in my book.
Yeah. Not very interesting, but again, structures of tournaments, like you got to take draws when you can get them. This time I was kind of just a bystander, but
yeah,
happens to the best of us. What a change! Round 3, going first win.
Yeah, I was going first this round, and this is something that I talked about in my important cards or good cards. I played a turn 1 Vexen Bauble. 2 of my opponents did not have a turn 1 play, and the other opponent had tapped their mana for a mana vault, I think, something that didn't, make colored sources, and I killed them, and they couldn't interact, and they hadn't developed anything.
This sounds about
the card is really good in turbo decks. It's banned in Vintage for a reason, or in Legacy for a reason. Yeah.
Is it restricted in Vintage? I can't even remember.
I don't know.
Cards
Couldn't
plus.
say. Yeah.
fair.
I guess the second part of that hand was that it also had a Jessica's Will, which is like the best card in the deck, easily top 3. And like any Ral hand that plays a Jeska's Will is probably keepable or pretty close. So, yeah.
Gotcha. My next round, I thought this was really weird. I did want to bring this up. So this is round 3, win and a draw, and I go to my round 3 table. Before I even sit down, they're asking for a draw, and I gotta say I told them straight up, like, that doesn't make any sense. We all need wins here. You're losing an opportunity for a win. We're playing. I think that's a different type of draw culture. Like, people are looking for draws in situations where they have potentials to win games. And, like, I mean real potential. No card has been played. You're just throwing the game, like, you're throwing your opportunity to top 16 out the window if you're doing this early. I think at this point it was pretty well known that, like, 12 to 13 points is kind of what you needed in order to make top 16. So it just didn't make any sense. I think that you should be trying to play for a win as often as possible, and then if you can't win, or if someone's going to, like, beat you out, that's when you try to present a draw. And, like, that's it. You should be playing for wins.
Yep, 100%. And especially early. It's arguably more important to get your wins early, because then it just relieves the pressure from you later in the tournament. Like, if you get your 15 points within 4 rounds, well, damn, now you have, like, 2 rounds to, like, farm for better position.
Yeah. So in this game, I just want to talk about that real quick. But after that, I'm in C1 and I'm just able to assemble a breach line with, like, I did, like, a quadruple gamble to assemble a breach line. It was pretty sick. I had, like, 8 cards in my hand to start, destroying cards off Timna. It was me and C1, Rocco, Rock Thrust, and Natali. So there was no interaction at this table. It was just me. So
Yeah.
felt pretty comfortable going for it.
Go first, win games.
Yep.
All right, round 4. Jordi?
Round 4, it's Kinnan going first. I'm second, Roxai, and then Sammy. The Sammy player from Top 16. So that was kind of funny. And the Roxai player is actually a guy from Monolith. I had an early engine to start pulling away. The Roxai player cast a Necrodon, and he was trying to politic to let the Necrodon resolve, which was not flying with me. So Kinnan player ends up countering that. They end up countering that. We pass the turn to the Sammy player. Sammy player presents a win. But I don't have interaction. Kinnan's just kind of sitting there at this point. Only player with interaction is going to be the Rockside player, and he has a pact. So we basically that's where we draw, unfortunately. If I untap there, I draw breach off the top and win. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Pactive negation, doing pactive negation things. Getting everyone their 1 point. All right. Blake.
Yeah, round 4. I think this is, like, maybe one of the coolest games I've ever played. Not for the reason that you think. I was C2 against 3 blue farm players. And so I talked about earlier how Echo is a very powerful card in this deck. And the reason for that, the partial reason for that, I guess, is that Ral is very good at mulliganing pretty low. For multiple reasons, but Echo is one of those reasons, because any card, or any hand rather, with land, LED plus Echo is keepable. It's a Ral plus a wheel turn 1, which is obviously pretty good, unless you're in 4th seat. Like, maybe it's not the best, but you're going to take it anyways. This hand was that on Turbo Crack. This was a hand where I got to play all 8 cards in my hand, making, like, I was Jessica's wheeling and floating, or not Jessica's wheeling, echoing with Ral in play, floating 3 red mana, colorless, and an untapped land. So we wheel, and I got to play a card that I actually had never resolved before, which was basically I wheeled into getting to play like 3 more cards, which was Hidden Strings to untap some colored sources, brain freeze to mill myself for like Storm of 10, like 30 cards, into Storm of Memories, which is just like Mind's Desire, but for your graveyard, right? That wins the game, it turns out. Turn 1, which is pretty cool. Obviously very lucky. I think the important things to note about this game, it was a turn 1 win on Ral. I will say that those are like not, I think, as common as people think they are. It's actually the first time I've ever had it happen to me, and I think I probably have more games on the deck than anybody else by probably quite a large margin. So that was really cool. The power of Echo plus LED was really shown in that game. Storm of Memories, like I said, literally the first time I've gotten to resolve it, or cast it actually even. It did lead to me getting a GRV because I resolved it wrong the first Storm trigger. So, oopsies. But
wasn't that
pretty
something
easy
like
win
you cast a spell and then it like didn't go into your graveyard, it went like somewhere else while it was illegal?
Yeah, so the first Storm of Memories copy cast one of the like discard a card, draw 2 cards from my graveyard, and I discarded an instant into my graveyard, but we had separated out my instants to do the randomness, and I put it in the wrong pile. So it wasn't there when we resolved the second copy. We caught it pretty immediately, and it didn't end up really impacting anything because I had chosen not to cast the second spell anyways, which I guess maybe something interesting to talk about. It was a wheel, and I chose not to cast it because I knew my opponents didn't have interaction, which is something RAL players should probably think about more. But so yeah, I think that the interesting thing I want to talk about for that game, and this is something that is probably true of a lot of decks, but like super true for RAL and Storm decks in general, is after the games I was talking to my opponents, and one of the players actually had a spot where they could have stopped me, and they just didn't know when to interact. And by the time that they saw it, it was too late. Which, I mean, that's a strength of playing a deck like this. But also, like, again, I got kind of lucky. Turns out you got to get lucky to win tournaments. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Round 5. Whoa, I see some familiar names in our round 5 here. You guys want to?
Yeah,
talk
Jordan and I
about it
played
together?
each other. Jordi and I played each other round 5. Jordi was seat 2. I was seat 3, I think. Seat 1 was a Crick, and seat 4 was a Sisay.
Let's just say from
Okay.
top 16.
Jordi forced a draw. It locked both of us to top 16.
Yeah.
He multi. What would you multi 4 or 5 or something?
Multi 5, I kept like Oppo and like double force or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it was for me it was a low mull, but also that hand could very easily just force a draw into locking top 16, and that's all I care about at that point.
Yeah.
And I knew Blake would be on board. I know you don't like drawing, but I knew you'd be on board because it's also just locks you for top 16. So like,
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we?
It goes back to the thing that you were talking about earlier, where like getting your draws in like round 3 makes no sense because you're not close to getting locked for top cut yet. But when you get to round 5 and you have enough points where you know, okay guys, hey, if we take an ID here, we're all basically going to be in top cut and we have another free round to try and get a win. Like that's just valuable. So
Yeah. And then round 6 was the next day, last round of Swiss. It kind of looks like we had similar positions here. I was 4th seed again. This game was a super slog. Blue Farm in seat 1 went like Remora into Smothering Tide, I think. And there was a oh my gosh, I forget the name of the deck, but there's a deck that you don't see a lot. That was in seat 3. And I think, to be honest, at multiple points in that game, multiple other players could have won, but one of them was like specifically playing for a draw, and to be honest, I think that player could have won and probably had better seating in the top cut, but it did end up being a draw. The only interesting thing about that point, I guess, was like a player had an Apple of Eden, they went to activate it on somebody else, and the way they forced a draw was by emptying their entire hand, which or I guess saying that they would empty their entire hand, and if they did that, then the person would pass to me and I'd win. So that's how they forced it. Again, I think like all or 2 of the 3 other players in that pod could have won that game if they were more conscious of winning instead of trying to draw.
How would they even empty the hand? Because anytime you play a thing with Apple, they replace it, right? They draw a card?
No, sorry. The Apple trigger was on the stack, and they had Born into, and they had like 15 mana off Smothering Tithe.
I gotcha.
So, yeah.
Force draw. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that they probably should have gone for it there, but I think that they were a little worried that somebody else had interaction, and a draw there did lock them into top 16. So, I think that they probably win that game like 8 times out of 10. But they only needed a draw, so they took the safer route, which I guess you can't fault anybody for.
Yeah. That's completely fair. Jordi?
My game was, just like Blake was saying. I mean, it was Kinnan, Triple T, and Gay, and the board state basically had like everything you could possibly imagine. There were Ristics, there were Mystics, there were Glenalandras, there were Ranger Captains. It was just like a really overcomplicated situation where maybe if we had like an extra hour to play and it wasn't already locked for top 16, I would like play it out to try to get a win for better seat position. But why would I waste my like any level of mental stability I might have going to top 16 to do that? So basically, as soon as I was like looked at my turn, realized I couldn't win through double Glenalandra activation with a Voice of Victory in play, I tried to find another engine and then passed for a draw. The table was like, yeah, I guess we're drawing. It locked one player, and then the other 2 were basically just like holding their fingers together, trying to hope that 12 points would make them into top 16. I think only one player made it with 12 points. Yeah, but I was basically forcing a draw there. I was like, guys, I don't care what happens here, but I need a draw. So that's what it was.
Valid. All right, now the fun stuff. Top 16, we'll start with Jordi.
Top 16 was Jordan Drake going first on TNT, me, then the Sammy player from earlier, and then last was Corbin on TNK. And Jordan got off to like a crazy hot start. He had a turn 1 Charismatic Conqueror. He made 3 dudes. And he started just Ancestral Recalling every turn. Honestly, I don't know how he didn't just win, like flat out, from that spot. But eventually I'm able to claw my way back in after using a Bowmaster to start pinging him down. Killed his Timna, killed his Voice. And killed his Timna and his Charismatic Conqueror. And then I'm able to like claw my way back in, start drawing more cards, and we get to a board position of known silence from Sammy, who has nothing else to contribute to the table at that point. Ranger Captain from Corbin, Ranger Captain from Jordan Drake, and I have a Vexing Sculpture, a Bowmaster, a Crom, and like some other, and a Polywog on 1. Corbin tries to force it on his turn, which leads to a large stack interaction where I just start drawing cards off my Polywog. The Polywog eventually draws me into a Praetor's Grasp and a Born Upon win. And I'm able to win over the top of double Ranger Captain activation and a Silence. And that's how I got my way into top 4. It was just like Polywog drawing me every card I could possibly imagine. Yeah. That's it for my notes there, yeah.
I think that my top 4 game was very interesting. I was in C2. Sasquatch on Inala was in C1, and then there were 2 Blue Farm players in C3 and 4. To be honest, I don't think this is a game that I should have won. I went for it turn 2, and I got to a point, and I think that this is kind of maybe an important thing to talk about for other route players that I think most people would not consider. And a similar situation actually came up in top 4. But I got to a point where I had cast 6 spells and lost the Ral flip on the 6th spell. Or sorry, I had cast 4 spells. Somebody went to counter the 4th spell, and I packed it with no ability to pay for it. I'm protecting my own spell here, but basically what I'm saying is that I need to try to win the game. And this is a spot where I am thinking at... One, I don't know that I'm getting another turn. I think it's very likely that that Sasquatch on Anala, has the ability to present a turn 3 win on Anala, right? That just seems fairly obvious. And it also felt like a moment where the 4th seat blue farm player mulled pretty low. They were not likely to have more interaction. And then, 3rd seat, I just didn't really care about at that point. They had a Remora, and I was kind of feeding it, but I kind of felt like a sunk cost fallacy. I got to my 6th spell, and I lost the flip. And I had 1 card in hand. Those of you that don't know, actually, 6 is the important number on Ral. That's when you can flip Ral and immediately ult him. I had 1 card in hand that was an instant. It was untimely malfunctions, which I could cast for the make stuff unblockable option. I tanked really hard on this cast for no reason, because to be honest, I just had to cast it. I was dead to my packs the next turn. I had to cast it, but I tanked pretty hard on it. Just try to throw people off. Probably just wasted time, to be quite honest. I won the flip and flipped Ral and ulted him. And again, another interesting spot. Less so for me, but for opponents of Ral. I had 0 mana floating. I had 0 cards in hand. My hits were 4 lands, which is quite bad, because you can't use them. Glimpse the Impossible. Exiles 3 cards in the top of your deck. Rite of Flame, Solve the Equation, and Mental Misstep. I start with the Glimpse the Impossible. Again, no cards in hand, no floating mana. The second blue farm player, or the first blue farm player rather, that had them Remora, has drawn a Pact. And they agonized for a very long time over pacting the Glimpse the Impossible. They didn't have the mana to pay for it, and this is semis. That just kills them. They thought that it was the choke point that would stop me. They were wrong on that point, I think. You're almost always supposed to hit the solve there. They agonized for a really long time. They eventually decided not to kill themselves. I hit a Remora off of my solve. 2 random cards that didn't matter. I solved for Strike It Rich. I made red with the Rite of Flame. I turned it into a treasure. And I played the Remora. 0 cards in hand. I put 2 cards from Glimpse the Impossible into my graveyard, making some Eldrazi spawns. And I passed with the ability to pay for Pact next turn because of those 2 cards. I ended up drawing like 10 cards because the blue farm player had drawn a lot and they developed a lot of mana, and we knew that we had to stop the Anala player. Gets to Anala, they do go for it, they get stopped. I go for it again, and I fizzle. It goes back to the Anala player, they go for it. I think that Sasquatch should have won this game during that turn. This was turn 4. We were almost 2 hours in, which is ridiculous. That would never happen in a Swiss round, but I guess you have some of that luxury in semis. I think that I don't even know that he made a mistake, but I think like the having to wait for a long time probably played into that. He got a very narrow line. One of the blue farm players was able to demonic consult for Chain of Vapor, which ended up stopping him. I like 1 mana. He was doing one of the Anala lines that, to be honest, I couldn't name any of the cards that are part of it, so I'm not even going to try. The blue farm player that demonic consulted ended up exiling like most of their win cons, besides Mnemonic Betrayal. They pass to me. A Sasquatch does. I develop some mana. I keep up my fish. I pay for my pact. I pass to the blue farm player. They put a mnemonic on the stack. Got like 30 cards in graveyard at this point. I counter it. It comes back around to me, and I win the game. So, I think that is a game that most of the time I should not win, but I got lucky. And again, I mean, luck matters a lot in tournaments. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, and that game ended on turn 4. Sorry, turn 5, and it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was a lot of like intense thinking on the stack from all players, because they were trying to figure out my line, trying to figure out the Anala's line. It's just a lot of interesting interaction points. To be honest, that's not really the type of Magic that I love to play, but I think it was a good game nonetheless.
Yeah. And last but not least, top 4.
Top 4. Yeah, I'll start off here because that way Blake can finish it as he did. Yeah, you're on the play. I'm on a mold of 6. I wrote down my whole hand. I kept Ragavan, Manifold, Land, Swan Song, Deadly Relic, Mental Misstep. The game plan there being draw land, slam a Crom, hold up Deadly Relic, Mental Misstep, and Swan Song.
Yeah. I'll jump in.
Then Blake can take over.
Yeah, I was first seat. I kept a hand that played turn 1 Ral, had a Seething Song, had a Jessica's Will, and had a Fierce Guardianship, and had a Will of the Jeskai. That's like the nuts, guys. The interesting part about that hand, or that game, I think, and this is something that I want to talk about because I think most Ral players would not do this. I went for a turn 2, and I got to a point where I could continue to try to see cards, but I did not have the gear. I was basically casting a Glimpse the Impossible, or not a Glimpse the Impossible. There was another like C cards on top of the deck. I was casting those cards with the hope to hit something to cast to flip Ral, with very little mana left over, or I could set up for the next turn because one of the cards that I did hit was Hexing Squelcher. And like I said, Hexing Squelcher I think won me the finals. I decided to play the Squelcher and just pass. This is turn 2. Jordi played his Crom. It goes to my turn. Jordi attempts to Rollick my Ral, which obviously Squelcher does nothing against, but I have interaction for. None of them can interact with it. And then I Seething Song into Will of the Jeskai. I have 2 mana left over. After that, I cast my Jessica's Will from the graveyard. One of my opponents has a Flusterstorm, but it doesn't do anything because I have Hexing Sculpture. From that point, it's not deterministic, but it's pretty deterministic that I get there, which I can't remember how long you guys made me play it out, but it wasn't very long.
Oh, no, yeah. Whenever I see the writing on the wall, I let you know about it.
Yeah, so.
I remember the other players were like, they weren't sure if they were good or not.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, guys, we're dead. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, whenever you guys want to leave, we're good to leave.
Yeah.
Because the game's over. It's going to take another 30 spells, but we're dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the interesting part about that spot is, like, the casting the Squelcher and passing. Because I think most players would continue there to try to get a Ral flip on pretty thin margins. And, like, sometimes it's okay to just recoup, make some mana for the next turn, and go off even more protected. It doesn't feel like a very Stormy Ral thing to do, but to be honest, I might have won that game either way. But
well, it's also a question of identifying your windows, right? So, like, I'm assuming you feeling comfortable to play the Squelcher and pass is because you don't feel super pressured or threatened by what the other players are presenting.
Exactly. The CCS player mulled to 4, I think. And I guess this is another interesting spot about this game. They mulled to, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4, but they mulled pretty low. And they turn 1 fished. And I think there's another interesting spot about this game from Jordi's perspective. Jordi had a mental misstep, and there was a conversation around it. And the CCS player really wanted him to not counter it. obviously, right? And basically what I said was like, I don't have a single one mana spell in my hand. You're not going to get to counter anything from me.
Yeah.
So his options there, like let the Remora player draw pseudo infinite cards to potentially stop me, or to counter the Remora. And I think that most players would let the Remora resolve, would let the Remora resolve to draw to try to stop me. I don't know that they're wrong for that. I do think that there's a spot there where, like, if they draw infinite cards and they stop me, they're probably also stopping Jordi and then winning that game.
Yeah, so I'll let you know like what was running through my head. So for the mental misstep, I was actually thinking it was a long pause, but I was thinking, is this going to be any use? If I cast it on Blake's turn, even if it's any use, it's probably still drawing the Remora player like too many cards. So I just need to survive through this turn 2 and hope you don't kill us on turn 2. So if I do that, I can stop the fish and then continue with my game plan with having removal spell for Ral and then Swan Song for whatever the payout spell is, or mana spell, whatever you're missing. So I was like, this mental misstep's probably going to be useless for you because you're mainly a 2-drop deck anyway.
Yeah.
Except for like Vexing Bubble and Gataxian Probe. A couple like the.
Or some 1-drops, but yeah, it's mostly 2 and 3.
Yeah, so you're mostly a 2 and 3 drop deck. So like the mental misstep is literally just there to stop the fish, and if I don't counter fish, I'm probably just killing myself because like you're gonna draw them way too many cards for me to deal with. So
I think that's an interesting thought on like mulliganing against Ral, where I see a lot of people say that you need to mulligan for interaction, for free interaction probably. And I promise you that I've played more games in a pod with Ral in it than like anybody else has, because I'm always playing Ral. The people that win pods that I'm in when I don't win are not the people that mulligan and interact with me. They're the people that convince somebody else to mulligan and interact with me while they establish a Remora or a stick. Every time. Obviously, if you have a hand that has both, then like whatever. But if you mulligan to interact with me, you'll lose the game unless you're doing something else that's also very powerful.
It's also like super notable that Jordi said like not only did he have the misstep to stop the Remora, like he was holding Swan Song plus Rollick to deal with the Ral. So like if you're planning on potentially having to deal with the Ral anyways, there's no reason for you to be simultaneously feeding one of your opponents that could just like become the next problem.
Yeah. And you can see like the evidence in my hand. Like my hand there had early interaction, which was good, but I also had an actual game plan of drawing cards through Crom and Ragavan hits generating mana. Like I didn't keep that hand for the early interaction. I kept it because it had both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, without Ragavan, like that hand's not nearly as serviceable. You need to be doing something. You can't just be sitting there and stopping people.
100%.
Yeah, I think the only other interesting thing about that game was on turn 2 when I Jessica's Will targeting the CCS player. They had a Spirit Guide in hand that they didn't exile. To be honest, a little bit of that seemed like they were kind of tilted. I'm not sure that it's necessarily correct either way, because they mulled really low again and didn't have much going on. But yeah, they didn't.
I can understand
they didn't
not
end up
doing
with
that
that
though.
turn.
Like them not doing that is like a concession to either this mana wins you the game and like it sucks anyways, or I exile it, it didn't matter, and if you pass turn, now I'm 1 mana down for my game plan. So
Yeah, I think that the mistake there was that they showed it to Jordi, and Jordi said that they should do it, and then they kind of responded in a way that, at least to me, came off as a little tilted, especially after Jordi had misstepped their fish. And that, to me, is like a major sign that I'm basically scot-free. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, very informative. You guys have anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I have been one of the things most people that know me know this fairly well. Politics is not something I'm very good at, nor something I really like to enjoy, to be honest, about CDH. But it's something that I've been working on a lot lately. Max P and Nastrom, Jason Barrett, who both have been played. I mean, I'm sure you guys know them. They're both very talented players. Have given me a lot of good tips as to politics, and I was able to use multiple of those in this event. And I think that that's like absolutely what led me to success. So if you want coaching on politics, I would definitely. To be honest, I don't know if they're doing that. If they're doing coaching on that, they just help me because we're friends. But I would suggest reaching out to them and getting a session with them for sure, because that was very helpful to me. So.
Okay. I would say if you're looking to play more games and really get out there, the Florida scene is really on the uptick right now. Definitely check it out. If you have a chance to be in Orlando, Tampa, or South Florida, there's always things going on. Up and coming, Tried Games is running like a 5K in April. Definitely check that out. That's going to be super dope. And that'll be like South Florida, so you can either come in through West Palm or through Fort Lauderdale Airport. It's pretty accessible.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I should promote myself. Or if you like RAL in general, I love RAL. I've played so many games on the deck. I do RAL specific coaching. If somebody would like, I will only coach on RAL. I'm not near good enough on anything else in CDH, but if that's something people are interested in. I'm also just like very active in the RAL Discord, so if you just have general questions or whatnot, like I'm in there and answering questions
those are your minions.
every day. Yeah, so yeah.
Can confirm, I copied Blake's deck list one time and won an event, so
Yeah,
best
good.
coach out there. As far as what else we've got going on, if you're in the Orlando, Tampa area, we got a bunch of events coming up. We have on February 28th at Campus Cards and Games a free entry tournament for, I think it's Ancient Tomb? ? It's some card that's like $100.
It's an Ancient Tomb.
But it's free entry, so it's good practice in a tournament setting. I'll be running that, and then the next week we have our bi-monthly tournament. It's $52 entry with a cash payout to top 4, so that'll be excellent. And then the week after that we have March 14th, I think it is, over in Tampa. The Big Guava Gamers are going to be having a 5K. It's 5K in prizes. It's not 5K cash, but Foil Grim Monolith is going to first place. So lots of big, exciting things happening in Florida if you come out this way.
It also recommends the other CCS 20Ks. I think that Atlanta's not my favorite place to travel to, but it's part of an invitational, so that's nice.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude, for sure. And there's still value. Like we made top 4. We're locked for the 50K. Because remember, this is an invitational series to get to a 50K tournament.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, actually, that reminds me of my favorite part about this event. Every other player in top 16 wanted to split, and I said no. So, value, baby.
Get your money.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, I think we've done just about anything we needed to, and we're right at the hour mark. So thank you guys for listening. We hope you learned many things. Congratulations again to Blake and Jordi for doing so well at this tournament. And we'll see you in another month and a half when we post again. Bye, guys.
Yeah.